59. Okay. I believe I still don't know this by heart. Welcome to the Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time, beginning after Pesach 2014. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel Bas memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Okay, so we're at printing out page 259, 759. Sorry about that.
Right. Okay.
Okay, Alan, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, begin chapter 2.
Knowing one's place. They assembled against Moshe and Aaron and said to them, It is too much for you, for the whole congregation is holy, and Hashem is in their midst. So why do you exalt yourselves over Hashem's assembly? He spoke to Korach and all his assembly, saying, In the morning let Hashem make known who is his. It is too much for you, O you Levites.
All right. We know there are several gematrias based on Hashem's name, based on the expanded spelling of Havaya. The two highest, where the letter Hey is expanded Hey Yud, equal 72 and 63. The souls of the Jewish people in the desert were from both names Havaya together. That's 72 plus 63 equals 135. Okay? 135. And that is the souls of the Jewish people in the desert. The name of 72 corresponds to Chachma, and the name of 63 corresponds to Bina. And 135 represents the union of Chachma and Bina. Go ahead, Alan.
The souls of the Jews of that generation were derived from the name of Hashem, whose numerical value is 135. That is, from the combination of the two names Havaya, whose numerical values are 72 and 63. As we have noted previously, the name Havaya can be spelled out in four basic ways, giving the numerical values 72, 63, 45, and 52. The sum of the first two of these iterations is 72 plus 63, which equals 135. The four spellings out of the name Havaya correspond to the four partsufim of Abba, Ima, Zer Anpin, and Nukva. Thus, combining the 72 and 63 spelling out signifies the union of Chachma and Bina. That is, the masculine consciousness of Chachma applied or made relevant to the feminine consciousness of Bina.
All right. 2. 135 is also the gematria of Kala. There are two words, Kala. The word Kala means light, as in not heavy, and brings to mind the phrase in the Talmud, Nashim Datan Kala. The Gemara there asks, regarding the laws of Yichud, about a man and woman alone in seclusion, why a man may not be alone with two women, but one woman may be alone with two men. The Gemara answers that the minds of women are easily swayed, nashim datan kala, that they're easily swayed, or that they are, I don't know, lightheaded. In other words, since their minds are easily swayed, a woman may be more inclined to sin because she thinks the second woman will also be persuaded. On the other hand, men are more difficult to convince to sin, and the first man will hesitate to sin with another man around. In any case, in Kabbalah and Chassidus, this phrase is taken to mean that there's a lighter measure of das in the feminine principle. One moment. And three, in our case, it means like this. The generation that left Egypt was considered branches of Moshe. They were a good match for each other, Moshe and the generation who left Egypt. The generation that entered the land of Canaan, by contrast, was considered the feminine principle relative to the generation that left Egypt. That made them a good match to enter Canaan. The phrase Nashim Datan Kalot or Kala can now mean the generation that entered Canaan, who embody the feminine component, were 135, the combination of 72 and 63. Again, Kala, Kuf Lamed Hey, is 135, the total of 72 and 63. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
The two of them together thus express the idea embodied in the sage's statement that women have light or agile das. The numerical value of the word light in this expression, kala, the feminine form of the adjective, is 135. Kala, kuf lamed hey, 100 plus 30 plus 5 equals 135. Thus, the das, or divine consciousness of this generation, the second generation of the Exodus, was female relative to the male das of the first generation of the Exodus. As we know, this was in fact necessary in order for them to enter the land of Israel and concretize the abstract consciousness of the first generation. Korach's rebellion occurred shortly after the incident with the spies, that is, during the first year after the Exodus. However, after the incident with the spies, Hashem declared that that generation would perish in the desert, and only the next generation would enter the land of Israel. So, in a sense, the first generation was over, and the history of mentality of the second generation had taken over by the time Korach mounted his revolt. Want you to go?
Okay, thanks. 4. Korach and his cohorts asked Moshe, "Why do you raise yourself over the congregation of Hashem?" The word for congregation is kahal, the same letters as kala, again, whose gematria is 135.
Hmm.
Alan?
All right. This is why they said, why do you exalt yourselves over Hashem's assembly? Kahal. The word for assembly, kahal, is spelled kuf he lamed. And so therefore its numerical value is also 135.
Mhm.
Okay. 5. Moshe was also associated. So that's one thing. Those people, the second generation of the desert, they are connected with the number 135. Two names, the 72 and 63. Moshe was also connected with two names of Havaya as follows. What's called the regressive spelling of Havaya is the first letter plus the first two letters plus the first three letters plus all four letters, or the first letter 4 times, second letter 3 times. So that's the first letter is Yud, is 10, 4 tens. Second letter is Hey, 3 fives. Third letter is Vav, 2 sixes, and the last letter is Hey, that's once. 40 plus 15 plus 12 plus 5 is 72. Now, the regressive spelling of S, this is connected with Moshe. The regressive spelling of Havaya of 45, Hashem's name of 45, that's the lowest number, with expanded spelling and regressive spelling. So in the name of 45, the Hey is expanded to Hey Aleph, with a gematria of only 6. With a gematria of only,
Huh.
That's
Only
right.
disappeared.
How did I do that?
I don't know.
Very small number.
Only 6. That's
Because you
why.
had only there, the 6 went thinking it was number 6 because
It
that
thinks
was
it's number
5.
6. Hold on. Okay, whatever. I worked on this today. Okay, using the gematria of expanded spelling, the first letter plus, again, the first letter plus the first 2 letters plus the first 3 letters plus all 4 letters. But we're using expanded spelling. So Yud isn't 10, now it's 20. Yud Vav Dalet is 20. 4 20s. The Hey, we said, is the Hey Aleph, because this is the Havaya of 45. So Hey Aleph is 3 6s. Vav is spelled Vav Aleph Vav. That's 2 13s. And then 1 6 at the end. And that is 80 plus 18 plus 26 plus 6 equals 130. Nothing to do with the 135 that we learned before.
Right.
Yes.
There's actually a prophecy, and so we have 72 and 30 and 130. There's actually a prophecy in Yeshaya that says, Hine Hashem rochev al av kal. Behold, Hashem rides on a swift cloud. Again, the word kal is the same that we had before, kala, meaning light, not heavy. Over here, it's light. Kal means swift, as in nimble or fleet, which is also light. Someone is light on their feet. So the Av Kal, the swift cloud, Av, a cloud, is 72, and Kal, which is swift, is 130. Moshe was associated with both numbers, 130 and 72, for a total of 202. Go ahead, Alan.
Moshe's soul, however, was derived only from the first of these 2 spellings out of the name Havaya, that is, from the one whose value is 72. This numerical value can also be derived from the name Havaya in square form. The square form of a name is the regressive spelling of the name. For the name Havaya, this is Yud, Yud Hey Vav, Yud Hey Vav Hey, which is 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5, which equals 72. Moshe's soul consciousness was pure Chachma, that is entirely masculine or abstract. He was thus not suited to enter the land of Israel.
Thank you. Now, the very first words Korach and his cohort said were Rav Lachem. The very first words over here that they're speaking to Moshe. Rav Lachem, it is much for you. For the entire assembly, all of them are holy, and Hashem is in their midst. So why do you raise yourselves over the congregation of Hashem? The gematria of Rav, it is much, is 202. According to this, Korach's complaint to Moshe was, you are not a fit leader for this group of people. You are associated with 202. We just said in number 5, 72 plus 130. While they are associated with 135, 72 and 63. You are Rav, that's a gematria of 202, while they are Kahal, a gematria of 135. So Moshe, his numbers are off. Jim, would you like to continue? 761 at the top.
When this square form is considered together with how it is spelled out, with the letter Aleph, we have the words a light cloud, whose numerical value is 202, that of it is too much. If we then spell out each of the stages of the iteration in the square form in full using the letter Aleph to spell out the letters Hey and Vav, we have Yud, Vav, Dalet, 10 plus 6 plus 4, 20, Yud, Hey, Yud, Vav, Dalet, Hey, Aleph, 10 plus 6 plus 4, 5 plus 1, 26, Yud, Hey, Vav, Yud, Vav, Dalet, Hey, Aleph, Vav, Aleph, Vav, 10 plus 6 plus 4 plus 5 plus 1 plus 6 plus 1 plus 6, 39. Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, Yud, Vav, Dalet, Hey, Aleph, Vav, Vav, Hey, Aleph, 10 plus 6 plus 4 plus 5 plus 1 plus 6 plus 1 plus 6 plus 5 plus 1, 45, totaling 130. 130 is the numerical value of the word for the masculine form of the adjective light, kal, kaf, lamed, 10 plus 30. 72 is the numerical value of the word for cloud. Oh, that's Av. Ayin Beit, 70 plus 2. The phrase a light cloud appears in Isaiah, a prophecy from Egypt. Behold, God is writing on a light cloud coming to Egypt. The gods of Egypt will squirm before him, and Egypt's heart will melt within it. 130, 130 plus 72 is 202. The numerical value of the word for it is too much. Rav, Resh, Beit, 200 plus 2 plus 202.
Okay, now number 7. When Hashem said he would give meat for 30 days, Moshe responded, 600,000 foot soldiers are the people in whose midst I am. This means that all the people of that generation were sparks of the soul of Moshe. He says, I am in their midst. One moment. Korach continued, number 8. Korach continued, you were fit to lead the generation that left Egypt, but now the people are the generation that will enter Canaan. You claimed that the people in whose midst I am, but actually Hashem is in their midst. And if you look back on 759, it said, Alan read for us that God is in their midst. This was a rejoinder to what Moshe said, that I am in their midst. Okay, continue, Jim.
Yeah, there's a lot here. I think probably should have read this one before, but whatever. This is the mystical meaning of the phrase, it is too much. In other words, Korach said to Moshe, you personify the spiritual consciousness indicated by the number 202, while Israel personifies the spiritual consciousness indicated by the number 135, the numerical value of the congregation of God. Why then you exalt yourselves over them? Korach said, it is too much for you, which can be read, you have 202, your soul is that of Chachma, while that of the congregation is that of Chachma informing Bina. You therefore cannot relate, cannot understand the congregation. You're irrelevant. To explain, you already know that I have written on the Parsha, on Moshe's statement, 600,000 marchers are the people in whose midst I am, namely the entire generation of the desert. 600,000 souls, or all soul sparks, were derived from the source of Moshe's soul, which is the source of all of them. The generation of the Exodus achieved the highest levels of divine consciousness and were able to do so because they feared a common soul wrote with Moses, who personified this consciousness. But now, Korach said to him, all that generation has died out through all of the various ways in which they died. So now God is in their midst, not you. As you said previously, the people in whose midst I am. Korach argued that Moshe was not a proper teacher for the new generation. His mentality fit that of the previous generation. The younger generation, whose divine consciousness was relatively feminine, was not able to relate to the masculine leadership of Moshe.
Okay. So Korach, Moshe replied with the same word. Korach said to him, or Korach and his people, Rav lachem. It's too much for you. Everyone's holy. Moshe replied, Rav, the same words, Rav lachem b'nei Levi. It's much for you, sons of Levi. And what he meant was, according to this, it's in the simple meaning, he's telling them you're trying to grab too much for yourselves, you're trying to grab what doesn't belong to you. But here he says, you Levites are associated with Rav 202. You Levies are associated with 202, not me. Korach thought that Chachma could not relate to Bina, but in fact, Chachma and Bina complement each other. And therefore, Moshe, who is Chachma, could relate to the new generation, which was Bina. Go ahead, Jim.
So Moshe replied that the exact opposite was the case. It's too much for you, O Levites. That is, you Levites personify the spiritual consciousness expressed by the number 202, nada. It is too much for you. Rav Lechem can be read, 202 is yours. As we saw above, 202 is the numerical value of the name Havaya plus the value of the word for light call. In other words, the masculine Chachma, as manifest by the 72 name, does have an implicit feminine lightness in it as well. This was Korach's error. He thought that Chachma was pure Chachma and could not relate to or lead Bina. Moshe knew that even though the new generation was a generation of Bina, Bina still needs to be connected to Chachma, as we've explained previously. To explain.
Okay, great, thanks. Now the next part, I think is going to change a little direction. It says that in simple terms, Moshe had a spark of Hevel in him, and Korach had a spark of Cain. In other words, the rivalry between Cain and Hevel played itself out with Korach and Moshe. Korach equals 308, and Hevel is 37. And Moshe is 345. Apparently, 37 represents the good in Hevel, while 308, which is the gematria of Korach, represents the bad of Hevel. Moshe corrected the bad in Hevel. And these two things, 308 and 37, is 345. So 308, which is Korach, plus 37, which is Hevel, equals Moshe 345. So 308 represents the bad of Hevel, and 37 represents Hevel himself, the good of Hevel. What was bad of Hevel? I was just speaking to, my younger brother a week or two ago. He was checking to see if I knew. I think there's a few things. I think Hevel only brought us an offering when Cain brought his. He saw Cain was bringing one, so he also ran to bring. But I think that was it. Or his offering, what even though it was the choicest, it was not given wholehearted. There's something there. Okay. Jim, go ahead this part that says to explain.
All right, so to explain, the following explanation is based on the fact that the numerical value of Korach is Kuf Resh Chet, 100 plus 200 plus 8 equals 308, plus that of Abel, Hevel, is Che Beit Lamed, 5 plus 2 plus 30 plus equals 37, equals that of Moshe, Mem Shin He, 40 plus 300 plus 5 equals 345. Elsewhere, the Arizal states that the evil side of Abel expressed the number 308, and that this evil was rectified in Abel's reincarnation, Moshe. This is indicated by the fact that Moshe's numerical value equaled that of the good in Abel plus the evil in him. Korach, which is 308, Korach is 308, was thus the evil in Abel that had been rectified in the soul of Moshe. Thus, he was part of Moshe's soul, dependent on him. But when he began his rebellion, he was rerouted into the soul of Cain.
Yeah, look at that. I never knew that.
Hmm.
Okay, 11. At first, Korach contained the bad of Hevel. When he revolted against Moshe, he aligned with the soul of Cain. Moshe davened at this point, Elokel Elokei Haruchos L'chol Basar, God, the God of spirits of all flesh. The initials of the last three words spell Hevel. You see what Chaim does over here? I put it in bold and large. Hey, Lamed, and Vase spells Hevel. Abigail, would you like to continue? 762 at the bottom.
Since Korach sensed that a reincarnated spark of the soul of Cain had ignited in his soul, he said to Moshe, I am no longer subservient to you. This is alluded to in Moshe's and Aaron's prayer, O God, God of the spirits of all flesh, the initials of which spell Havel in bold and large print. Right. God's first response to Korach's rebellion was to tell Moshe that he intended to wipe out the whole people. God spoke to Moses and Aharon, saying, separate yourselves from this congregation, and I will wipe them out instantly. But they fell on their faces and said, O God, God of the spirits of all flesh, so shall one man sin, and you be angry at the whole congregation? The initials of the phrase, spirits of all flesh, ha-ruchot lekol basar, are Hey Lamed Beis. Hevel Hey Beis Lamed.
12. The God of spirits of all flesh means that Hashem is familiar with all the souls of the new generation of the desert who will enter Canaan. He knows that they are connected with the soul of Moshe, who is derived from Hevel's soul. Moshe therefore argued to Hashem that that only one person sinned, and would you get angry at the whole assembly? They were all still associated with Moshe. This is why he's saying, why would you get angry at everyone? They're still affiliated with me. No reason to take it out on them. Go ahead.
Okay. Meaning, in fact, the souls of the second generation were also soul sparks of Moses, the reincarnation of Abel. Thus, God, who is the God of the spirits of all flesh, knew that they were derived from Abel's soul. Since only Korach sinned, Moshe therefore asked God, shall one man sin? The rest of the generation knows this, i.e., that they are no different from the previous generation, and believe in Moshe, for they are all included in his soul. Moses argued that despite the difference in the generations, they were still his, i.e., they were still derived from Abel's soul. Thus, the 202 that defined his soul defined theirs as well.
Okay, 13. Moshe said, through this you will know that it's not from my heart, but it comes from Hashem. He said, if they die the way everybody dies, a natural death, then his appointments did not come from Hashem. But if the ground opens up, that means that Hashem told him to do it. So he meant that he did not appoint Aaron and his sons by his own decision, but by the word of Hashem. And is that it? What happened to the rest of it? I thought I filled in. But here, we're going to explain it differently. Here, it's going to mean that the people who will be punished for this, that Moshe is not happy. It's not from my heart. He's not pleased. Excuse me, that people will be punished because these people are connected with him. So he's kind of being put in a situation where where this has to follow. Okay, go ahead, Abigail.
This explains Moshe's statement. Through this you will know that it is not from my heart that I do this. In Moses' speech before the trial of the incense that would demonstrate Korach's folly and cause the death of the rebels, he said, through this you will know that God sent me to do all these deeds, that I did not make it up. The latter phrase literally reads that it is not of my own heart, which can also be interpreted to mean that it is not of my heart or of my free will. For he was forced to do it by God against his will. He said, for you are all part of me, and if evil befalls you, it hurts me. This blemish affects me as well. But I am forced to do this against my will because of your wickedness.
Okay. And that's it. By the way, I had written down, he says that he gives a whole explanation for Nashim Daitan Kala, that women have light das. It's on page 196 and 197 in this book that he gives an explanation of that.
Did we do that? I think we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, a few years ago.
Oh, yeah. Because I knew a rabbi who said that it meant that it was, or that the interpretation he got out of Kabbalah was that they were more permeable. So they
The
would,
simple meaning is that they're more easily swayed.
yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
this ends. This is the chapter. I'm looking. I found a I thought I found a typo before, but now I don't see it. Okay, I click on my own. Okay?
All right.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Good learning.
Thank you. Good
Have a great
night.
evening.
Good luck with everything.